Chosen one, listen carefully. You are not here by accident. What you're hearing right now is not a coincidence. It's not the algorithm. Heaven has pressed pause on everything around you to speak directly to your spirit. This moment is divine. This is not just another video, another voice, or another vague encouragement. This is a rescue mission, timed to the second, sent from the throne of glory for you, and only you. You feel it, the weight in your chest, the chills on your skin, the lump in your throat. That's not emotion, that's encounter. God has dispatched 2 mighty angels to your location. Yes, right now. Yes, to you. Not a metaphor, not a story. A real divine intervention has been issued with your name sealed on it. Heaven has interrupted the natural flow of your day to tell you, you are not forgotten, you are not forsaken, you are not too far gone. This is your wake-up call. There are assignments of darkness that were sent to destroy you tonight. Plans carefully layered in silence. Anxieties that were meant to break your mind. Temptations that were meant to seduce your soul. Accusations and lies meant to harden your heart. But heaven stepped in. God sent not 1, but 2 mighty angels to stand between you and destruction. These angels are not here to decorate your life. They are here to rescue it. Do you realize how important you are to heaven? How intensely God watches over you? The reason you've survived what others didn't. The reason you've endured pain without explanation. The reason you feel too deep for the shallow waters around you. It's because you are marked. You are chosen. You carry a divine assignment that darkness fears. You terrify the enemy without even trying. That battle you're in, that depression you hide, that rejection you carry like a shadow, it's because hell sees what's inside of you. But today, the chains are trembling. The trap is being dismantled. The enemy is panicking. Because you've just entered into the 21-minute window of mercy, heaven's timeline is activated. What you do in these next moments will shift atmospheres, not just around you, but through generations. You are the one that shifts the bloodline. You are the one that heaven trusted with fire. It is written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 42, verse 31. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. Chosen one, the reason you've felt like you're barely crawling is because your wings have been under attack. But the angels are coming with healing in their wings. You will soar again, not just survive, not just cope. Soar. Let me ask you this. Have you noticed how hard it's been to focus lately? How strange the spiritual pressure has felt? That's not your imagination. That's warfare. But the King of Heaven does not leave. His soldiers stranded. He sends backup. And that backup has arrived. If you've been feeling like giving up, if you've questioned whether God still sees you, if you've wondered why you're still alive after everything you've endured, then hear this. You've been preserved for this moment. This is not the end, it's the turning point. You are the one who carries light into darkness. You are the one whose prayers have disrupted hell's agenda. You are not weak. You are not too broken. You are not forgotten. You are chosen. But this rescue is not automatic. It requires response. Not later. Now. Delay is dangerous when angels are on assignment. The clock has already started. What you do right now can shift everything. Comment 777 below as a prophetic act. Not for me, for heaven. Let it be a sign that you hear, that you receive, that you choose to rise. When you comment, you're not just typing, you're testifying. When you type 777, it's not just pixels on a screen, it's a prophetic cry in the spirit realm. It tells every demon that tried to break you, I'm still standing. It tells heaven, I accept the rescue. And it tells your future, I'm ready to walk in divine alignment. This is your confirmation. This is your covenant. Heaven is watching. The angels are moving. Your next move matters. Like this message, if you feel the fire in your spirit, share it so another soul doesn't miss their 21-minute rescue. And most importantly, subscribe right now if you haven't already. This channel is more than content. It's a divine lifeline for the called, the marked, the chosen. Comment, Sheba me'ot shebaim v'sheba now. You have 21 minutes. This is not a coincidence. This is your moment. Chosen one. There is something you need to understand, not later, not someday, but now. Your name has been spoken in the throne room of heaven. Yes, your name. While you were pacing the floor, wiping tears from your face, or maybe numbing the ache just to get through another day. Your name was being spoken before the Ancient of Days. This is not poetry. This is not symbolism. This is spiritual reality. The courtroom of heaven is not a quiet place. It echoes with petitions, intercessions, and decrees. Angels move on command. Elders bow in reverence. But in the middle of all of that, God stopped everything to whisper your name. You see, there are people who don't know your story, who will never understand your pain. They think you're fine because you smile in public. They assume you've moved on because you haven't broken down in front of them. But heaven sees past the surface. Heaven sees the nights when you couldn't breathe from the weight. Heaven saw the moment you almost said, I quit. And instead of punishment, God responded with mercy. You are not forgotten in the divine realms. You are seen. When your strength failed you, the angels recorded it. When you cried out and heard nothing back, the silence wasn't rejection. It was heaven readying a reply. The delay was not denial. It was orchestration. The very fact that you're hearing this now is proof that the timing was never off. It was precise. There's a divine file in heaven with your name on it, etched not in ink but in fire. It contains every prayer you've whispered, even the ones you forgot. It carries the blueprint of your assignment, the pain you've endured, the battles you've survived, and the mantle you carry. That mantle is why hell has been after you. You were never born to blend in. You were born to break patterns. You were born to expose darkness by simply being who God called you to be. That's why the attacks have been personal. That's why the warfare's been relentless. The enemy studied your lineage and thought he had you figured out. But there was something he didn't count on. You were chosen. Not chosen because of your perfection. Not chosen because of your performance. But chosen because God saw your yes buried under all that pain. Chosen because deep down, you never really let go. You kept holding on, even with trembling hands. And heaven honors that. There is a great cloud of witnesses watching right now. They know what it cost you to survive. They saw when you stood in places others died in. You were never weak. You were weary. And now, heaven is answering that weariness with intervention. There's a dispatch of angels with orders that include your name. They haven't come to observe, they've come to fight. your battle reached the ears of the king. And now the king has responded. This is not myth. This is not religion. This is reality in the spirit realm. You are not invisible. You are not voiceless. And no, you are not late. The enemy wants to convince you that you missed your moment, that you've wasted too much time, that it's too late to recover. But he is a liar. Heaven works on eternal timing, not earthly clocks. What you thought was a season of delay was a season of divine preparation. You were being strengthened for the weight of the call. You were being broken only so the oil could flow. You carry oil now. Chosen one, the kind that doesn't come from books, stages, or applause, but the kind that only flows from pressure, tears, betrayal, and perseverance. That's why you will carry authority, because you paid for it in private. It was proclaimed in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 29, verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a future and a hope. You are not crazy. You are not overreacting. That spiritual sensitivity you carry is not a flaw. It's evidence that heaven put something deep inside of you. You've sensed things others ignored. You've wept over things they laughed at. That's not emotionalism, it's discernment. And now, God is awakening it. That's what this moment is. An activation. The angels have been dispatched. The throne has declared it. And now, all of heaven waits for the next step. Not from someone else. From you. Your name is not buried in a sea of faces. It has been spoken. The throne room does not misplace what it values. Heaven hasn't forgotten you. Heaven has just begun. Chosen one. You need to understand just how close it was. The trap was set. The enemy had been planning it, tailoring it just for you. The conversation you were about to have, the decision you were about to make, the silence you were about to retreat into, it wasn't innocent. It wasn't random. It was bait, and it was scheduled to trigger tonight. Yes, tonight was the night the enemy marked for your collapse. He layered it carefully in thoughts that felt like your own. Phrases like, maybe I'm just too much, or what's the point of even trying, didn't just float through your mind. They were planted, whispered, weaponized, and his hope that you'd agree with them. The trap wasn't loud. It came through passivity. It came through compromise. It came through that silent surrender you thought no one would notice. But heaven noticed, and heaven intervened. Before your mouth could agree with the lie, God sent angels to block the words. Before your feet could step into the shadow, light was dispatched. That's why you're here right now, because you were rescued from a moment you didn't even see coming. There are moments in the life of the chosen that come quietly, dressed in ordinary hours, but charged with eternal consequence. This is one of them. Your spirit knows it, even if your mind is still catching up. You can feel the weight. You can feel the war. That's because you've arrived at a divine crossroads, and the enemy hates it. You weren't supposed to hear this. You weren't supposed to pause. You weren't supposed to recognize the pattern, but something in you resisted. Something in you broke the rhythm long enough for God to get a message through. That something, that was your anointing calling you back. Understand this. Not every attack comes as disaster. Some come as distraction. The enemy doesn't always knock you over. He simply invites you to slowly drift. He hands you a version of life that looks almost right, but is entirely wrong. And if you accept it, you never crash, you just fade. But God said no. There's still too much light in you, too much purpose, too much destiny. Your rescue was not just about survival, it was about interruption. You were on a path that would have led to compromise, but heaven pulled the brake. Now, you must not go back. Hear me. This is your moment to break agreement with the lie. You do not belong in smallness. You do not belong in fear. You do not belong in cycles that keep you tame, invisible, or confused. You were born to rise. You were born to shake nations, break bloodline patterns, and speak words that shift rooms. The fact that you haven't seen it yet doesn't change the truth of it. The enemy tried to write your ending early, but heaven just flipped the page. Now you must respond. Comment, I hear you. Let the spirit world see your response. You're not just hearing with ears, you're hearing with your spirit. That simple sentence, I hear you, is a declaration. It tells God, I'm listening. I'm not brushing this off. I receive the warning. It tells darkness, I see the trap now, and I refuse to walk into it. Sometimes all it takes to cancel an attack is awareness. And you're aware now. You see it. The compromise, the lie, the passive agreement, it's being exposed. That relationship you knew wasn't healthy. That opportunity that glittered but didn't feel right. That inner vow you made in pain, like, I'll never trust again, or I'll just stay quiet. These are the whispers the enemy tried to use as permission slips to access your destiny. But you're canceling them now. You may feel like you're just typing into a screen, but in the realm of spirit, your agreement has power, and your refusal has authority. Scripture says in the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verse 10, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life, and have it to the full. This is what Jesus came for, not for you to merely survive, but to live fully, to walk with joy, not numbness, with clarity, not confusion, with fire, not fear. So whatever you do, don't go back to sleep. Now that you've seen the trap, you must avoid it. Now that you've heard your name in the Spirit, you must answer. And that answer starts with simple obedience. Comment, I hear you. Then live like it. Walk like it. Choose like it. Because God is speaking. And the angels are standing guard to make sure you have room to obey. You've been given 21 minutes of divine clarity. You're in it now. Don't waste it. The trap has been exposed. The angels are near. And your next move matters more than you realize. Comment, I hear you. Let your yes echo beyond the algorithm. Chosen one. There's a reason the temptation felt so strong. There's a reason it came cloaked in comfort, dripping with logic, disguised as relief. What you were about to say yes to, what you almost reached for, wasn't simply bad. It was poison. The enemy never offers his worst first. He offers the most palatable version of the pit, the drink that looks smooth, the words that feel validating, the silence that feels easier than confrontation, the opportunity that flatters your insecurity, the click that promises release. But behind the screen, behind the moment, behind the pleasure, it was bait. And that bait had your name on it. It's not that you're weak. It's that you're targeted. You're not being tested because you're failing. You're being tempted because you carry something holy. something dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. That's why hell customizes the offer. That's why it feels so personal. Because it is. Do you really think the enemy would waste a generic trap on someone who's been set apart? No. The bait is tailored, measured to match your past, sculpted to trigger your wounds, wrapped in nostalgia, whispered in tones that sound like closure or healing or freedom. But it's none of those things. It's a chain waiting to tighten. Had you said yes, even silently, it would have begun. It doesn't always start as sin. Sometimes it starts as permission. Permission to lower your standard. Permission to silence your voice. Permission to stop hoping. To stop waiting. To stop guarding your heart. That's where the enemy plants the seed. And if you water it with your silence, it grows into destruction. But heaven intercepted. There are moments in the lives of the chosen that shift history, not because they do something huge, but because they refuse something small. You refused tonight. You resisted in your spirit, even before your body followed. That hesitation, that inner check, that strange weight you couldn't explain, that wasn't your conscience. That was the Holy Spirit pulling your hand back from the edge. You didn't just avoid a mistake, you dodged a setup. Make no mistake, what you almost reached for would have changed things. It would have dulled your clarity. It would have complicated your call. It would have made room for shadows to creep in and question what God has already confirmed over you. Because that's what sin does. It clouds what was once sharp. It makes you forget what you knew in the light. It's not just about guilt, it's about distraction. The enemy doesn't need to destroy you. He just needs you off course. And he nearly succeeded. That's the terrifying beauty of this moment, how close it came. One yes away. One message sent. One door reopened. One night of just this once. And yet you're still here. The angels stood between your weakness and your ruin. Mercy blocked the door you were about to open. And now you're seeing it for what it was. Not freedom. But entrappement. Not comfort. But compromise. Not healing. But delay. You've been given sight again. There's a reason heaven has been so relentless in reaching you. God doesn't waste divine warnings on people who aren't carrying fire. You may think you're ordinary, but you're not. There are things in you, assignments, gifts, words, blueprints that will destroy strongholds. You don't even fully know what's inside of you yet, but darkness does. That's why the attack came. That's why the offer looked so harmless. If the enemy can't kill you, he'll try to tame you. And if he can't tame you, he'll try to trick you into self-sabotage. That's what tonight was. A setup for you to betray your own future. But not anymore. What you almost touched, what you almost said yes to, what you almost let in, it was not sent from heaven. It was poison. And poison doesn't always kill quickly. Sometimes it kills your voice. Sometimes it kills your joy. Sometimes it kills your standard. And once that's dead, everything else follows. You were not designed to live diluted. You were designed to carry divine fire. You were never meant to live at the mercy of your emotions. You were meant to live at the feet of the King. And that's why heaven fought for you tonight. Heaven stepped in, not because you were perfect, but because you were called. The Word of God declares in the book of Proverbs, chapter 14, verse 12, there is a way that appears to be right, but in the end it leads to death. Oh, and now, a holy fear settles, a reverence for what nearly happened, A clarity that this life, this calling is not a game. You are not just trying to be a better person. You are walking out divine war strategy, and every step matters. The poison was meant to numb you, but now you're awake. Walk away from it, without guilt, without explaining, without apology. Leave the offer on the table and return to your altar. Heaven chose you over the trap. Choose heaven back. Chosen one. This battle over your life has never been casual. You need to understand, when heaven sends angels, it's never symbolic. It's warfare. The angels sent for you were not sent to comfort you. They were sent to defend you. They were not holding candles. They were holding swords. This is not poetic. This is prophetic. You are not simply being encouraged. You are being covered. There is real war over your soul, over your choices, over your calling, and heaven is not passive about it. Neither should you be. The angels sent to you tonight are warriors. They stand in obedience to the Most High, armed with authority, and fueled by a single mission, to ensure you survive this chapter and step into your assignment. They are not watching, they are fighting. The enemy has increased pressure lately, hasn't he? The confusion, the sudden emotional crashes, the people pulling on your spirit with no mercy, the fatigue that makes no sense. These are not signs of weakness, they are evidence of resistance. Resistance from darkness that recognizes you're nearing breakthrough. Hell has monitored your movements and knows when you're close to the edge of purpose. That's when it gets loud. But heaven gets louder. There are angels stationed around you now, moving at the command of the Father, silencing lies, shielding your thoughts, pushing back the spirits that were assigned to drag you under. There is activity in the unseen, and it is happening because of you, not because you're famous, not because you're flawless, but because you're faithful, because you've kept walking when you could have laid down. You may not have seen them, you may not have felt them, but you've lived through things no one else could have carried, and you're still here. Do you think that's a coincidence? It is written in the book of Psalm, chapter 34, verse 7. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and he delivers them. Chosen one. These angels are not wandering. They are encamped, assigned to you by name. They are holding the line while heaven waits on your next act of obedience. You don't need to fight everything alone. You never were supposed to. You are not abandoned in this battle. You are surrounded. You are covered. You are seen. There are swords drawn in your defense, even now. So pause and consider this. If this message found you, and it stirred something deep within you that's not random, that's divine orchestration. It means God still has his hand on you. It means the rescue operation isn't theory, it's real. And it's happening in real time. That's why you've been drawn to this moment. So let this be the day you stop treating these encounters like suggestions and start seeing them as assignments. If your heart is being stirred, if your spirit is awakening, then it's time to walk boldly into what heaven has for you. And listen, if this message is reaching you, there's a good chance someone else needs it too. So don't let it stop with you. Like this message, not just because you agree, but because you're aligning, because you're saying yes to the move of God in your life. Share it with someone else, someone who's walking through hell in silence, someone who needs to know angels are being sent for them. 2. This message may be their rescue, and if you haven't already, subscribe, not because of a number, but because this space is a lifeline. a stream of clarity, conviction, and fire to keep you anchored when everything else is trying to pull you back under. Stay connected. Stay sharp. Stay fed. Heaven is moving. Don't disconnect from the flow. You're not just receiving words, you're receiving weapons. Every truth you embrace becomes a sword in your spirit. Every lie you reject becomes a door sealed shut. That's what this is. Spiritual strategy, not inspiration. Instruction. The angels are moving as you move, as you surrender, as you obey. You're not passive in this fight. You're a key player in the plan of God. And the moment you stop doubting, that is the moment the whole atmosphere around you shifts. So remember this, you are not a burden. You are not behind. You are not broken beyond repair. You are the reason the angels drew their swords tonight. You are the reason this moment exists. And heaven is still not done with you. When God sends angels, He sends them for those He refuses to lose. Chosen one. You are one of them. Chosen one. Time is not standing still. The 21-minute window you've been given, this divine moment of intervention, is already in motion. The countdown has begun, and mercy is present. But mercy does not wait forever. You are living inside of a divine pause, a holy interruption designed to wake your spirit before the gate closes. This is not to scare you, it's to sober you. Heaven doesn't operate in panic, but it does operate in timing. God has released angels on your behalf, but not indefinitely. Their assignment is connected to your response. That's how important your agreement is. That's how powerful your obedience truly is. You see, in the Spirit, every second holds weight. Every hesitation has consequence. What feels like a moment of indecision to you becomes a doorway held open in the heavenlies, or one that slowly begins to close. Right now, that door is open. The angels are still standing at your side, swords drawn, waiting for you to move, waiting for you to speak, to surrender, to act. And yes, even the smallest act of agreement in the natural can activate major shifts in the spiritual. Don't let the simplicity of this moment fool you. This isn't about typing a number. This is about aligning your heart with heaven's rescue. You have no idea how close it was. You don't know what was planned for you if God hadn't intervened. The heartbreak you would have stepped into. The false relationship you were about to trust. The compromise that would have crept in, quiet but lethal. It was going to look good. It was going to feel justifiable. But it was designed to drain your discernment, strip your strength, and lead you gently back into the dark. But God said no, not now, not you. The timing of this warning is not random, it's strategic. And when God moves in strategy, He expects the same from His chosen. That means you don't delay. You don't talk yourself out of clarity. You don't explain away the warning. You respond, because the angels don't wait forever. They obey the voice of the Lord, and when the time of decision closes, they return to the throne, not because they failed, but because you froze. And if that's what you choose, heaven will honor it. Not all obedience is explosive. Sometimes it's as simple and sacred as typing a number that marks your yes, chosen one. If you hear this and your spirit is stirred, comment the number 444. This number isn't magic. It's movement. It's your voice in the digital wilderness declaring, I hear you. Lord, I agree. I choose alignment. I choose obedience while mercy is present. Commenting 444 is your prophetic act, a response from your soul that tells heaven you are not asleep at the wheel. You are alert. You are aware. You are aligned. The number 444 inch this moment signifies divine order, angelic covering, and prophetic alignment. It means that what seemed chaotic is now being brought into clarity, that what felt like destruction is now being rebuilt under heaven's blueprint, that angels are not just watching, they're working. God is setting things in order for you. He's re-establishing boundaries in your life that had been crossed. He's closing doors you didn't have the strength to shut yourself. He's shifting people out of your atmosphere who were sent as distractions in disguise. He's reactivating your purpose. But it requires your partnership. Do not be passive. To delay is to risk hardening. When conviction knocks and the door isn't answered, the sound grows fainter. And when that sound fades long enough, darkness becomes comfortable again. But God didn't give you 21 minutes for comfort. He gave them to you for consecration. There's still time. You are still in the window. But every second you hesitate, the weight of eternity presses closer. This is not legalism. This is love wrapped in warning. You are deeply loved. But love tells the truth. And the truth is, your response is required. Scripture says in the book of Hebrews, chapter 3, verse 15, "Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts." No, you are hearing his voice, not mina his. That tug in your spirit, that tightening in your chest, that sense that this is more than content, that's not emotion. That's encounter. That's the Father reaching for you before the time expires. Will you respond? Type 444 now. Let it echo through the atmosphere. Let it mark this moment in time where you said yes, not tomorrow, not when it's safer, but now. Let every demon assigned to delay you see the number and tremble. Let the angels see it and move into position. Heaven is waiting for your signal, and you still have time. Chosen one. This moment is not just about your life. It's about your bloodline. What you are walking through now. What you are feeling pressing against your chest and spirit is heavier than just your personal struggle. This is ancestral. This is generational. You are not just being attacked for your own future. You are being resisted because of what you carry for others, those before you, and those after you. You've likely felt it all your life, the invisible pressure, the sense that you were somehow different, that you didn't belong in the dysfunction around you. You may have grown up watching cycles repeat: addiction, silence, poverty, secrecy, shame. You saw people normalize pain, live quietly broken, survive without healing. And something in you said, this cannot continue. Something in you refused to accept what others called normal. Alu, that something was not rebellion. It was divine defiance. It was the fire of heaven that marks the first in a bloodline to break through what others were bound by. That resistance in you, that refusal to settle for what broke others, is not pride, it's purpose. And the enemy has seen it since you were small. It's why you felt so misunderstood by those closest to you. Why, even in moments where you tried to be quiet, people projected things onto you. Why you've been rejected without cause, excluded without reason. It's not because you're hard to love. It's because you're hard to categorize. You were never meant to fit. You were meant to shift. There are spirits that were comfortable in your family line for generations until you showed up. spirits that had free rein through pain, abuse, secrecy, and silence. And then you were born, a soul that didn't conform, a heart that carried light, a mind that asked questions others refused to voice. So of course you've been attacked. Of course you've faced more than others seem to. Of course you've questioned if something's wrong with you. But nothing is wrong with you. Something is right with you. Something that shakes hell. Something that irritates darkness. Something that causes ancient strongholds to stir in discomfort. You are not the victim of generational pain. You are the confrontation of it. You were chosen not to carry the weight of the family, but to cast it down, to expose what was hidden, to break what was passed down in silence, to say what others were too afraid to speak. And that comes with warfare. It comes with pressure. It comes with moments where you feel isolated, misunderstood, even attacked by the very people you're trying to liberate. But don't let that confuse your assignment. You are not here to please them. You are here to free them. Sometimes deliverance doesn't look like casting out demons. Sometimes it looks like setting boundaries. Sometimes it looks like walking away from what everyone else tolerates. Sometimes it looks like having the courage to name what no one else will speak out loud. And when you do that, darkness trembles. But you will also find resistance, because people often protect the systems that allow them to survive, even when those systems are slowly killing them. But you are not here to survive. You are here to heal, to build, to restore. You were sent into the line to interrupt the pattern. So if you've been feeling the weight of spiritual pressure lately, it's not just about what you're facing, it's about what's trying to stop you from becoming. The anxiety, the attacks, the warfare in your dreams, the fatigue that doesn't make sense. These are signs of inheritance war, signs that something ancient is being threatened, because you are close, closer than you've ever been to stepping fully into your call. The enemy's goal is not just to make you tired, it's to make you numb, to get you to believe the lie that your voice doesn't matter, that it's always going to be like this, that the cycles will continue, with or without you. But that's not the truth. You are the interruption. You are the no more. The it ends with me. Scripture says in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 22, verse 30, I looked for someone among them who would build up the wall and stand before me in the gap on behalf of the land. But I found no one. No, but this time, heaven found someone. You. You are the one standing in the gap. You are the one God trusted to carry this mantle, to face what others fled, to stand when others bowed, to speak when others stayed silent. And the heavens are watching, not in judgment, but in honor, because few are willing to carry what you've said yes to. Chosen one. You're not losing your mind. You're waking up your line, and everything is about to change. Chosen one. There are things that have never been said out loud, but heaven has heard them all. Every time you sat in silence, every time your heart broke quietly in a room full of people, every time you swallowed your questions because you didn't want to be seen as too emotional, too spiritual, too deep, God was listening. There is no cry that escapes the ears of the Father, no tear that goes unnoticed, no sigh that is overlooked. You've learned how to carry the weight without complaining. You've worn strength like a mask, because weakness made people uncomfortable. You've become the one who encourages others while breaking in private. You've become good at it, so good that even those closest to you don't see the pressure building underneath your surface. But heaven has never been fooled. God does not just watch your victories. He counts your tears. He bottles them as testimony, as evidence, as prophecy. The weight you've carried wasn't just emotional. It was intercessory. You have been weeping not only for your own pain, but for things that go beyond your understanding. That heaviness in your chest, the grief you can't explain, the sudden overwhelming sense of sorrow. It's spiritual. You've been standing in the gap even when you didn't realize it. You thought you were breaking down, but in reality, you were breaking through. There are moments in the life of the chosen that are so sacred, so intense, that language fails. All that remains is a groan, a cry, a wordless prayer in the night. Those are the moments that move heaven the most. When you had nothing left to say but still showed up. When you had no strength to pray, but your spirit still reached. Those tears were your offering, and they were not wasted. You may think no one understands what you carry. And you're right, most people don't. But God does. He's not asking you to explain yourself to the world. He's asking you to keep walking with Him in trust. Even when your soul feels threadbare, even when the nights stretch too long, even when your emotions betray you, because what you're carrying is precious, and heaven guards what is precious with fire. That's why the battle's been so intense. That's why the grief feels heavier than it should, because what's being birthed through you requires depth, and depth only comes through pain surrendered to purpose. You weren't just crying over broken friendships. You were grieving spiritual alignments that no longer served your assignment. You weren't just crying over being misunderstood. You were shedding the version of yourself that needed human validation. You weren't just mourning lost seasons. You were letting go of what once worked, but can no longer carry you forward. The tears were sacred. They were cleansing. They were heaven's way of clearing the soil for what's about to bloom. And bloom. You will. Because after every season of weeping comes a new weight of glory. God does not leave His wounded ones without reward. The night you cried yourself to sleep and felt nothing respond, heaven was working. The time you stood in the bathroom, staring into your own eyes, wondering if you still had fight left, heaven was watching. And the day you whispered, "God, I don't know how much more I can take," angels were dispatched, not because of pity, but because of purpose. It is written in the book of Revelation, chapter 7, verse 17, "And God shall wipe away every tear from their eyes." He doesn't just collect your tears, He wipes them away. That means they were never meant to stain you forever. They were meant to wash you, to soften you, to awaken you. And now, that season of silent intercession is becoming a season of visible vindication. Heaven has not overlooked you. Your cries were a language deeper than words, and they reached further than you know, into the courts of heaven, into the pages of your destiny, into the timing of your rescue. Those cries unlocked things no prayer list ever could. They were raw, holy, unfiltered, and God responded not with silence, but with strategy. Every time you broke in secret, heaven drafted victory in your name. Doors began to shift. Chains began to weaken. The rescue wasn't delayed, it was prepared in the depth of your agony. Your cries weren't signs of weakness, they were summons. Summons for angelic movement. Summons for divine timing. Summons for a breakthrough, custom built for your soul. You don't have to explain your pain to everyone. Just keep letting God turn it into power. Your tears were not wasted. They were sown, and now your harvest is near. Chosen one, it's time to face it. Not just the pain, not just the weight, but the agreements. Because in the spirit realm, silence is not neutral. It speaks. And many of the battles you've been facing lately didn't start with attack. They started with agreement. At some point, maybe in your exhaustion, your confusion, or your hurt, you said yes to something that didn't come from God, and not always out loud. Sometimes that yes is quiet. A thought you didn't challenge, a whisper you allowed to stay, a narrative that settled in your mind and found no resistance. That's all the enemy needs. One whisper that goes unchallenged becomes an agreement that opens a spiritual door. And once the door is open, warfare enters freely. You didn't mean to welcome it. You didn't think you were agreeing with darkness. You were just tired. Tired of waiting. Tired of hoping. Tired of hearing promises with no evidence. And so you said things like, maybe I'm not called. Or, maybe this is just my portion. Or, maybe I'll just live quietly and not stir anything. Oh, but those weren't thoughts. They were contracts. Agreements in the unseen. And the moment you accepted them, the enemy stepped into territory he had no right to claim. That's why the pressure intensified. That's why you began to feel foggy, heavy, uncertain, out of alignment. Not because you were failing, but because you were misaligned. But here's the truth. Alignment can be restored with one holy no. All you have to do is break the agreement. You don't need a ceremony. You don't need perfect language. You just need to renounce it. Call it what it is. Bring it into the light. Heaven doesn't require perfection. It requires truth. And right now, truth is rising in you. The lie said, you're stuck forever. Break it. The lie said, you missed your moment. Break it. The lie said, God is done using you. Break it. The lie said, your mistakes disqualified you. Break it. The lie said, you're too sensitive, too emotional, too much. Break it. The lie said, you'll never be loved the way your soul desires. Break it. These are not harmless thoughts. These are spiritual infections, and they must be extracted before healing can fully take root. The enemy is not afraid of your potential. He's afraid of you, realizing that you still have authority. You can't carry destiny while silently agreeing with defeat. You can't walk in fire while whispering fear. That's not judgment, it's just alignment. God has not changed his mind about you, but he will not override your free will. You must choose to break what you've allowed. And right here, right now, you can. Comment, I break agreement. Say it boldly. Type it prophetically. Let heaven record it. Let darkness hear it. Let your soul feel it. When you declare those 4 words, you are not just typing, you are severing. You are pulling down the words of the accuser. You are shattering the lies that tried to become your identity. It doesn't matter how long ago the agreement happened. It could have been a whisper in childhood, a trauma that shaped your theology, a failure that reshaped your self-worth. It doesn't matter. What matters is your response now, because what you break now will not follow you into the next chapter. Scripture says in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 10, verse 5, we demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. That is what you're doing. You are demolishing arguments in your mind, agreements in your spirit, pretenses that were passed down like inheritance. It ends here. You were not born to live in quiet torment. You were not chosen to merely exist with a muted soul. You were called to burn with love, with clarity, with holiness. And for that to happen, the chains must fall, the lies must die, the agreements must be broken. This is not emotional hype. This is holy surgery. And you are not alone. The angels assigned to you are already moving with your declaration. When you say, "I break agreement," they enforce it. Heaven waits for the moment you use your voice, not just to cry, not just to worship, but to war. And this moment right here, this is warfare. So speak it, declare it, write it. Let it be known in every realm. You are not in agreement with darkness anymore. Comment, "I break agreement." Because you are no longer available for deception. Chosen one. Pause for a moment and breathe this in. You just broke something. Yes, you. Not by force, not by performance, but by truth. And heaven took it seriously. The moment you broke agreement, angels moved. The atmosphere around you shifted. The weight on your spirit began to lift, not because you earned freedom, but because you finally aligned with it. Freedom is not something you fight for alone. Freedom is your inheritance. And the moment you reject the lie, heaven enforces the truth. But now comes the next step. Build on what you've just broken through. You don't just walk away from deception, you walk into clarity. You don't just say no to the enemy, you say yes to the voice of God. And that yes is not a whisper anymore. It's not hidden anymore. It's public. It's visible. It's alive. This is your moment to walk in what the enemy hoped you would never believe, that you're called, you're covered, and you are being carried by divine momentum. What you feel stirring right now, that fire deep in your chest, that trembling in your spirit, it's not emotion. It's a signal. You're coming out of spiritual sleep. You're waking up to who you truly are. The chosen one, the marked one, the one God would not let slip into the shadows of compromise. And now, it's time to rise. Chosen one. You are not called to hide in the back of the room. You are not meant to apologize for your clarity, your insight, your fire. What was once rejected in you is the very thing that God is about to use to rebuild ruined places. You've survived attacks that were never meant to stop. You outlasted storms that didn't give warnings. You endured emotional weight that others never saw, and still, you carry light. That's not normal. That's not common. That's favor. And now, the favor is becoming visible. People will begin to ask, what changed? They'll sense the shift in your posture, your peace, your words, and they'll want to know where it came from. Be ready to tell them, God stepped in. I broke agreement. He came into alignment. I said yes. And heaven responded, because someone else's rescue might be hidden in your story. Don't keep this fire to yourself. Like this message, if it's confirming what your spirit has been wrestling with in silence, not just to support it, but to anchor it. When you like something, you are affirming it. You're saying, I bear witness, this is for me. I won't treat it lightly. So if your spirit has been trembling while reading this, like it, share this message. Right now. Don't wait. You know someone who is stuck in silent agreement with darkness. Someone who's been crying out for a sign that heaven still sees them. someone who's on the edge, about to say yes to something that looks safe but is soaked in deception. This message might be the sword that cuts the tie. Don't keep it to yourself. Send it. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this space, not because of a number, not because of routine, but because this space is a stream of oil for those who are walking through dry lands. The chosen don't just need sermons, they need reminders. They need strategy. They need a voice in the dark that speaks like thunder. Stay connected to this well. Keep your spirit fed. Heaven speaks here. This is not entertainment. This is divine recalibration. And your subscription isn't about content, it's about continuity. You've already broken through, but now comes the building, the daily obedience, the choices no one claps for, the surrender when no one is watching. This is how chosen ones are forged, not in applause, but in alignment. It is written in the book of Romans, chapter 12, verse 2. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. That's exactly what is happening now. You are being transformed, not just encouraged, not just hyped up, but truly renewed. Your mind is shifting. Your perspective is being cleansed. And from this place, the decisions you make will no longer come from fear. They will flow from revelation. And with that revelation comes authority. Chosen one. Don't lose this fire. Don't let it fade when the screen turns off. Carry it. Guard it. And keep pressing into the one who called you. Because He's not finished. Not even close. There is more to be revealed. More to be healed. More to be released through your life. This message is not the end of the story, it's the unlocking of it. So, like, share, subscribe, stay close to the sound of heaven. Because this is just the beginning. Chosen one. Let's make something clear. The intensity of your journey has never been a reflection of your weakness. It has been a sign of your weight. You carry something. And because of that, you've been met with resistance far greater than most understand. While others coasted, you've been climbing. While others drifted, you've been battling. And it's not because you're doing something wrong. It's because you're carrying something right. You've been marked not for survival, but for authority. And when someone carries spiritual authority, the battle starts long before the platform ever appears. The refining comes before the release. The fire comes before the favor. That's why it's been so hard. That's why it's been so lonely. That's why the warfare has felt so personal. Because it is personal. Heaven knows your name, but so does hell. And hell doesn't fear crowds. It fears those who are consecrated, those who walk quietly with God while everything around them screams for attention. Hell fears those who are still soft in spirit after surviving hard things. Those who carry oil not because they learned a script, but because they walked through wilderness. That's who you are. You've been misunderstood because you see things others don't. You sense the shift in a room before anyone else speaks. You feel spiritual movement, spiritual pressure, spiritual weight, and sometimes that discernment feels like a curse. But it's not. It's a gift. A sign that God has trusted you with sensitivity because He plans to use you in strategy. Others can sleep through the storm. You wake up. Others can tolerate compromise. You get grieved in your spirit. Others can live diluted. You feel the pull to separate. That doesn't make you judgmental. It makes you called. The deeper your calling, the greater your tension. And right now, you're living in the tension between what was and what is coming. You can feel it, can't you? That unsettled space, like something is shifting but hasn't fully revealed itself yet. You're not where you used to be, but you're not fully where you're going. And it's frustrating. Sometimes it feels like failure. Sometimes it feels like you're being punished. But the truth is, you're in transition. And transition is always messy. It's the hallway between obedience and outcome, the space between surrender and reward. It's where your motives get purified, your pace gets adjusted, your faith gets tested. And in this place, it can feel like God is silent, but He's not. He's watching, measuring, strengthening, reordering things in your life to prepare you for the next level. If you were being forgotten, the fire would have stopped. But it hasn't. The pressure proves the process is still active. And in this tension, the enemy whispers his favorite lies. This is pointless. You're making it all up. You've missed too much to catch up. Everyone else is moving forward, but you. Oh, don't believe it. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are being forged. There is a version of you that's emerging in this process, a version that no longer needs external affirmation to obey, that no longer seeks escape in the midst of delay, that no longer waters down conviction to keep shallow peace. That version is being formed in the fire. And that's why you can't quit, because there's too much at stake. You may not realize it, but there are people assigned to your obedience, people whose freedom is tied to your yes, people who don't even know your name yet, but will one day thank God that you didn't fold, that you didn't hide, that you didn't walk away when it got too heavy. They're waiting on the other side of this tension. Scripture says in the book of Galatians, chapter 6, verse 9, "Let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest, if we do not give up." Hopefully, you're closer than you think, and though your hands may be tired, and your heart may be raw, your yes still holds weight. Your obedience still shifts atmospheres. Your presence still disrupts the plans of darkness. You don't need to be perfect to be powerful. You just need to stay in the fight. This middle ground you're in, it's not a mistake. It's a sacred place, a proving ground, a birthing room, the hallway between who you were and who you're becoming. Don't despise it. Don't rush it. And above all, don't quit in it. You are being sharpened. You are being tested. But more than that, you are being trusted. And heaven never trusts lightly. Chosen one, take a deep breath and be still. Listen not with your ears, but with your spirit. Something is happening inside of you right now. Something eternal. Something irreversible. You are crossing a threshold in the spirit. A line has been drawn, not by people, not by pain, but by heaven itself. You are not the same person who began this journey. What once weighed you down is now being burned off. What once bound you is now being broken. What once muted your voice is now losing its grip. There's a reason the warfare intensified, a reason the pressure pressed in closer. It's because the enemy knows what you're about to walk into. Heaven has issued a new mantle over your life. Not just an encouragement, not just a moment of comfort, but a divine marking, a fresh commissioning. You are no longer simply recovering from what happened. You are becoming what God had in mind before it ever did. You are entering into the next phase of your assignment, and it's going to require more than motivation. It will require clarity, conviction, and courage. But above all, it will require obedience. Radical, no matter the cost, obedience. The kind of obedience that breaks fear, that silences doubt, that leaves behind the familiar and dares to follow fire. You don't get here by accident. There are millions scrolling, million distracted, millions who once heard God and turned back because it cost too much. But you stayed. You lingered. You listened. You didn't dismiss the weight you felt in your spirit. That alone is evidence that God has called you apart. And because of that, heaven is responding with a new order over your life. That order will require pruning. It will require you to walk away from some things that feel comfortable but are no longer covenant. It will require you to say yes without the full blueprint. It will require trust in the dark, but it will be worth it. Because what God is building in you cannot be rushed, and it cannot be compromised. This is not about ambition. This is about assignment. The next phase will not look like the last. Where the previous season was about surviving, this one will be about stepping forward. Where the last chapter focused on healing, this one will focus on walking in authority. The time for hiding is over. The time for doubt is over. The time for small thinking and spiritual indecision is over. It is written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 60, verse 1, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." This is that moment. The light has come. The glory is rising, not just around you, but in you. You are not waiting for confirmation anymore. You are standing in it. You are no longer wondering if you heard God. You're walking out what He already confirmed. And to mark this shift, this divine threshold, I'm asking you now, comment the number 555, not because it's tradition, not because it's ritual, but because it's prophetic. The number 555 this moment represents divine transition, grace multiplied, and full surrender. It means you're no longer standing between two opinions. You've chosen your side. You've drawn your sword. You've said, "God, I don't need all the answers. I just need your voice." And God heard that. When you comment 555, it's not for show, it's for alignment. It tells heaven, I'm ready for this mantle. It tells the spirit realm, I'm stepping into divine order. It tells every generational spirit of delay and confusion, you lost your grip. I am not yours to touch anymore. Now, this number isn't about magic. It's about movement. You are crossing over, not by feeling, but by faith. Not because it's easy, but because it's required. The old battles will not follow you into the next chapter, not if you truly leave them behind. But you must choose. You must mark this moment. You must declare your yes. The angels that rescued you in the beginning of this message are still present, but now they stand not as warriors but as witnesses. They are watching your response, ready to escort you into the next level if you agree. So, chosen one, if you know you've been called to carry something greater, if you feel the mantle of heaven resting on your shoulders, if you've decided that nothing will keep you bound anymore, comment 555. Let it echo across realms. Let it shake the atmosphere. Let it be recorded in heaven. You chose obedience. You stepped into alignment. You said yes to the mantle. And now, heaven moves again. Chosen one. Do not be surprised by the intensity of the resistance you're feeling right now. After a moment of breakthrough, after a holy surrender, there is often a backlash, a tightening, a sudden wave of confusion, distraction, or fatigue. And it's not because something went wrong, it's because something went right. The spirit realm does not sit silent when a child of God steps into alignment. When you say yes to the call, when you renounce what was holding you down, when you shift into obedience, darkness reacts, not with thunder, but with subtle warfare, emotional noise, doubts that creep back in with a different tone, anxieties that rise up out of nowhere, old wounds that suddenly feel fresh again. But this time, you know better. You see it for what it is, not a relapse, but a reaction, not a sign to retreat, but a confirmation to keep going. Because what has just taken place in your life is not small. You've shifted spiritual structure. You've broken ties in the unseen. You've activated a new realm of clarity. And now, the enemy is scrambling. He's hoping you won't recognize it. He's hoping you'll mistake this tension for failure, that you'll misread the pressure as punishment. But it's not. This pressure is proof. Hell is nervous. You see, when the enemy loses access, he shifts to strategy. He won't hit you the same way he did before. He'll disguise the attack in more familiar forms. A relationship that suddenly resurfaces, a temptation that once comforted you, an opportunity that seems good, but leaves your spirit unsettled. He hopes you'll be distracted. He hopes you'll chase the next easy thing instead of enduring the refining God has started. But you are not who you used to be. The version of you that fell for it before no longer exists. And because of that, you now hold a power that darkness dreads, discernment. Discernment is your shield now, and it must be sharpened in the quiet. You've said yes to the call. Now comes the deeper formation. Not in crowds, not in noise, but in the secret place, in the stillness, in the silence where God whispers identity and destiny into the depths of your being. This is where chosen ones are made. Not in applause, not in titles, but in tension, in wilderness, in waiting. And that is exactly where you are now. In the in-between, heaven has confirmed your assignment, but earth has not yet caught up. You are walking with a word, but no full blueprint. You are burning with vision, but not yet surrounded by support. This is what the prophets knew, what the psalmists cried through, what Jesus himself walked in. You are not abandoned. You are becoming. This is the season of your rooting, where God goes deep, pulling out old mindsets, healing hidden wounds, reinforcing your foundation, because he refuses to let you build your life on what can collapse later. The next level of your assignment is too weighty for weak structure. So, he's strengthening you now, yes, even through the discomfort. That's why isolation found you. That's why certain friendships faded. That's why your appetite for shallow things died. It wasn't rejection. It was redefinition. You are not being pushed out. You are being set apart, sanctified, prepared for a move of God that doesn't require mass approval, just deep alignment. And that kind of alignment cannot be borrowed. It must be lived. It must be walked. It must be tested in the quiet places, so that when the spotlight comes, your soul does not shake. That's what this moment is. not punishment, naught delay, but preparation. It is written in the first book of Peter, chapter 5, verse 10, "And the God of all grace, who called you to his eternal glory in Christ, after you have suffered a little while, will himself restore you and make you strong, firm and steadfast." Chosen one. The suffering was not wasted. The isolation was not for nothing. The rejection had purpose. And the warfare was never about your destruction, it was about your formation. You are being made strong, firm, steadfast, not emotionally reactive, but spiritually anchored, not tossed by every voice, but locked into the frequency of heaven. This is the maturity of the chosen. This is the cost of the called. And you've already said yes. So hold steady. The backlash is temporary. The fire will not consume you. The confusion will not blind you. You're not going backward. You're just being rooted deeper. Because what's coming next requires a strength that can't be shaken. Chosen one. You are still standing, and that fact alone is a threat to darkness. You've endured the pressure, weathered the isolation, faced the backlash, and resisted the subtle lure to retreat. And through it all, something in you refused to die. Something sacred, something holy, something eternal. The part of you that remembers. You were called before you were formed. You were chosen before anyone misunderstood you. You were marked before you ever bled. That truth has carried you, even when nothing else made sense. There were days when your mind wanted to quit, but your spirit refused. When your emotions screamed for relief, but your soul held the line. There were moments when logic told you to walk away, but a whisper deeper than thought told you to stay planted. That whisper wasn't you. It was the breath of God sustaining what he started. Because what he started in you is not fragile. It is not accidental. It is not unstable. It is divine construction. You are being built, stone by stone, into a vessel fit for holy fire. You've mistaken this season for stillness, but in heaven's timeline, you've been accelerating, not in visibility, but in weight, not in numbers, but in depth. And now, the foundation has taken root, and because of that, you're about to start feeling the pull to move, not recklessly, not emotionally, but with intentional fire. You'll feel it in conversations where you can no longer pretend. You'll feel it when you walk into environments that once fed you, but now irritate your spirit. You'll feel it when you try to go back to old habits and find they've lost their taste. You'll feel it when comfort no longer feels like home, and obedience becomes your only resting place. This is the evidence that the old mantle has lifted. God is calling you higher, not for performance, but for purity, not to impress, but to intercede, not to gain influence, but to wield it with wisdom. This is not elevation for the sake of visibility. It's elevation for the sake of interruption, because your presence sanctified, surrendered, and set on fire will interrupt hell's patterns. You are being sent as a disruptor. Not everyone will understand the shift. Some will mislabel your boundaries as pride. Others will accuse your silence of being cold. Some will try to bring you back into old roles, old spaces, old versions of yourself. Not because they're evil, but because they don't see what heaven sees. But that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to obey the voice of God, no matter how quiet it comes, no matter how costly it feels. You're not walking alone. You're walking ahead, And that comes with weight. You're going to have to make decisions that look strange to others. You'll have to release what no longer fits, even if it once comforted you. You'll have to bless people who can't go with you, without dragging them into a place they're not called to occupy. This is the maturity of the chosen. This is the fire of obedience. And it's burning brighter in you now than ever before. Heaven trusts you now with the kind of silence that precedes miracles, with the kind of stillness that precedes assignments, with the kind of clarity that costs you comfort but births spiritual territory. You are not just surviving anymore. You are walking in alignment. It is written in the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time, though it tarry. Wait for it, for it will surely come. It will not delay." Chosen one. That time is near. What felt delayed was never denied. What seemed slow was being secured in the spirit realm. What you thought was silence was sacred strategy. Now, the pieces are coming together. The words you once wrote in journals, the visions that never left your spirit, the dreams that felt too big to say out loud, they're being awakened. And this time, you will not abort the process. You will not surrender to fear. You will not shrink to be accepted. This time, you will walk it out. Your steps will carry fire. Your words will carry weight. Your life will bear fruit that no platform can manufacture. Because what's coming through you wasn't born in performance. It was born in pain, pressed in private, refined in fire. And now, it's ready. Chosen one. Keep walking. Not for applause, not for affirmation, but because the road is yours. Marked, prepared, covered, and the next step, it's already blessed. Chosen one. If you're still here, still listening, still receiving, then you are not just hearing a message. You are walking through a divine process. By now, something inside you has shifted. You don't feel the same, because you aren't. Something in your posture, in your inner dialogue, in your spirit has changed. Heaven has been speaking to you across every word, every confirmation, every holy silence between the sentences, and you have responded not just with interest, but with surrender. That's the difference between spectators and remnant. Spectators are inspired for a moment. The remnant is transformed for a lifetime. You are the remnant. You are the one God knew would not scroll past. The one he saw standing in your room, phone in hand, his spirit trembling. The one who, despite all the heaviness, refused to bow to fear. You are the one he chose to carry the next wave. And now, there's no turning back. You've crossed a threshold, and the enemy knows it. That's why it's gotten harder, not easier. That's why strange discouragement hits you, even after breakthrough. That's why you've had to battle with thoughts you thought you already defeated. You're not going backwards. You're being tested. Because every new level of obedience requires a deeper level of endurance. And you, chosen one, are being prepared for longevity. This isn't about a moment of fire. This is about a lifetime of impact. And impact starts with decision. The decision to guard what you've received. The decision to apply it when no one is watching. The decision to keep showing up for your destiny, even when the feelings fade. Because this is not about emotion, it's about alignment. The Spirit of God doesn't just visit, He inhabits. He doesn't just touch, He transforms. But transformation requires your continued, yes, not just once, but every day, when it's quiet, when it's hard, when it's inconvenient, when you don't see results yet. So ask yourself right now, will I keep walking even if no one else joins me? Will I obey even when I feel nothing? Will I stay faithful even when I feel forgotten? If your answer is yes, if your heart is burning even now, then let heaven see your agreement. Comment, I will obey. Don't just feel it. Say it. Declare it. Let the spirit realm hear it. Let the angels who were assigned to war for you carry that confession back to the throne. Let it be recorded. You didn't just hear, you obeyed. You obeyed in private. You obeyed when no one clapped. You obeyed when it cost you. You obeyed when it stretched you. That's what marks a chosen one, not the fire they feel in the moment, but the faithfulness they walk in when no one sees. Obedience is your access point, your key, your weapon. It breaks the cycles that crushed your family. It silences the voices that once defined your identity. It unlocks the doors that effort alone could never open. You don't need to hustle for your breakthrough. You just need to align. You've already begun. And now, let's seal this moment. If you felt your spirit shift through this message like this video right now, not as a formality, but as a prophetic act, you're saying, this is for me. I recognize the voice of the Lord in this. I will not let it pass me by. Every time you engage with truth, you reinforce it in your spirit. If you know someone who is walking through hidden warfare, share this with them. They don't need another distraction. They need deliverance. They need the clarity you just received. Be the one who passes the torch. Be the one who shines the light into someone else's darkness. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to this space. Not because of the content, because of the covering. Because the anointing that's flowing here is not random. It's real. It's weighty. And it is going to continue to build you, equip you, and cover you. You weren't meant to walk alone. And this space is a lifeline for the marked ones. Stay connected to the flow. Don't let the fire die out once this moment ends. You've come too far. Heaven has invested too much. The angels have warred too hard. Your pain has been too sacred. This is your hour to stay rooted and keep moving. It is written in the book of Joshua, chapter 1. Verse 9, have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Chosen one. God is not just with you when you feel Him. He is with you even now. In the ordinary, in the silence after this message ends, in the mundane moments where you have to choose faith over feelings, that's where strength is forged. That's where fire remains. So type it in faith. Comment, I will obey. Like, share, subscribe, and don't stop now. Because this journey, it's only just beginning. Chosen one. You're almost at the edge now. You've walked through fire, stood under pressure, and said yes in places where silence would have been easier. Every part of this journey, every whispered prayer, every tear, every quiet surrender has been preparation. And now, you are standing at the threshold of something irreversible. There's a shift happening around you that most people can't see. It's not loud. It doesn't come with flashes of lightning or visible signs, but in the spirit, it is seismic. The old structures are crumbling. The old limitations are being lifted. What held you back before no longer has legal access. What silenced you before no longer has weight. And yet, this moment demands something deeper than reaction. It demands resolve. Because this close to crossing over, the test changes. It's no longer about surviving. It's about holding the line. You're being asked to stand in full authority now, not with pride, but with certainty. Not to prove anything, but to protect what's been planted. The enemy isn't attacking you the same way anymore. He's not trying to tempt you into obvious sin. He's trying to convince you to settle, to plateau, to ease up just enough that you lose momentum. He'll whisper things like, "You've done enough. You're not responsible for all this. Someone else will rise up. But you've heard this before, haven't you? And this time, you recognize it for what it is, spiritual exhaustion dressed up as logic. Chosen one. Let this settle in your spirit. You were born to finish what others feared to start. There's a reason you've never fit. A reason your convictions have always run deeper. A reason you can't sit in silence when something spiritual is out of alignment. It's because God designed you with a sensitivity that others misinterpret, but heaven relies on. That sensitivity is not weakness. It's a weapon. Your discernment is how heaven navigates dark places. Your voice is how light enters locked rooms. Your presence, yielded and surrendered. Carry disruption. You don't even have to try. You just walk in. And the atmosphere shifts. Not because of you, but because of who you carry. And right now, that presence is growing stronger. You may not feel different. You may still have questions. You may still feel the sting of people who don't see the real you. But the weight you're carrying proves that something eternal is unfolding. You are not here by accident. And this moment, this final stretch, is not about convenience. It's about consecration. Consecration isn't glamorous. It won't always feel good. It often looks like being hidden, like being passed over, like praying for others while your own prayers feel unanswered. But that's because consecration isn't about what you get. It's about who you become. And you, chosen one, are becoming unshakable. It is written in the book of Hebrews, chapter 12, verse 27, the removing of what can be shaken, that is, created things, so that what cannot be shaken may remain. Everything in your life that could be shaken has been relationships, belief systems, self-worth, even your understanding of God. But what remains? Faith, fire, obedience, identity. These are not temporary flames. They are eternal pillars. And they're strong now because they've been tested. This is the part of the journey that most never reach. They bow to the tiredness. They fold under the loneliness. They mistake spiritual pressure for punishment. But not you. You stayed. You pressed in. You opened your spirit when it would have been easier to close it. And because of that, the oil is flowing. You may not see it yet, but it's there, in your words, in your thoughts, in your posture. Heaven has noticed. The Spirit has sealed it. And the angels that were once sent to rescue you are now surrounding you to reveal you. Chosen one. This next move isn't about breaking out, it's about breaking through. You've already been delivered. Now you're about to walk in dominion. You've already been healed. Now you're about to become a healer. You've already survived the testing. Now you're stepping into testimony. But don't rush the moment. Let the stillness complete its work. Let the fire purify, not just burn. Let the silence become a sanctuary where you receive your final instructions. Because after this, you won't be the same. You are crossing over. Heaven knows it. Hell knows it. And soon, the world will see it. Chosen one. This is the moment you were being shaped for. The part of the story that no one else can write for you. The culmination of every unseen battle, every private victory. Every moment you chose surrender over escape. You've been walking through fire, but the fire did not consume you. It refined you. It revealed you. Now, the spirit is settling. The war is quieting. Not because the enemy gave up, but because heaven is establishing order around you. The winds that once screamed have lost their voice. The chaos that once pulled at your peace has weakened, not because you ran from it, but because you stood through it. You endured. You stayed when quitting would have been easier. You trusted when logic told you to walk away. And in doing so, you have proven not just your love for God, but your loyalty to the process. This is rare. Heaven knows that, which is why the shift you are about to experience is not temporary, it's foundational. This is not a fleeting emotional high. This is not hype. This is a holy reordering of your destiny. You've reached the end of the war for your identity, not because the fight has ended forever, but because you have changed within it. You no longer need affirmation to know you're chosen. You no longer need permission to walk in authority. You've stopped asking the world for a seat and started building the table. Heaven assigned you to. That is maturity. That is what God has been waiting for. And now, the access opens. Doors you thought were closed are beginning to unlock, not because you chased them, but because you endured the fire required to handle what's on the other side. Opportunities are shifting toward you, not because you impressed anyone, but because your yes remained sacred. That kind of integrity creates ripple effects in the spirit. It draws resources. It stirs divine appointments. It provokes angelic movement. There's a weight to your presence now, a stillness that cannot be faked, a confidence that has been earned not through pride, but through process. And the most beautiful part, you didn't rush it. You let God work. You let Him peel away layers, cleanse old agreements, strip off false identities, and rebuild what was broken. You bled honestly. You prayed even when the heavens seemed silent. You obeyed without reward. And now comes the reward. No one else can give you peace, stability, clarity, authority. It is written in the book of Psalm, chapter 1, verse 3, "They are like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever they do prospers." That is who you are becoming. Not a wildfire that burns bright and disappears, but a planted tree, rooted, unmovable, drawing from living waters, producing fruit, not just in moments of intensity, but in every season. This is what scares the enemy most. Not just your ability to start, but your willingness to remain. You're not running anymore. You're not striving. You're not negotiating with your identity. You've received it. You've walked it. And now you wear it not loudly, but undeniably. Your voice doesn't need to shout to carry weight. Your presence doesn't need attention to carry fire. You are aligned. You are stable. And you are ready. The fire that once exposed your weakness has now revealed your core strength. The silence that once made you question your worth has become the womb of your wisdom. The tests you thought would kill you became the tools that shaped your mantle. So now, as you walk forward, understand this: you no longer walk as someone trying to prove their call. You walk as someone sealed by it. No more shrinking. No more second-guessing. No more revisiting dead seasons to look for closure. What God has brought you through is enough. What He's placed in your spirit is sufficient. And what lies ahead is already covered. You've become the very thing hell tried to stop. You've become the living proof that grace is greater than shame. You've become the evidence that broken vessels still carry oil. You've become the sound of heaven in human form. And from this moment forward, your life will not go back to what it was. Not spiritually, not emotionally, not in posture or purpose. You've crossed over, and your footsteps are now part of divine history. Heaven has seen, hell has lost, and you, chosen one, have risen, chosen one. If you made it here, you didn't just finish a message, you completed a spiritual journey. This wasn't content. This was consecration. Every section peeled something back, broke something off, and revealed something holy inside of you. And now, you are standing not as a listener, but as a carrier of glory. Heaven has witnessed your yes. Angels have recorded your agreement. You are no longer walking as the one who needed rescue. You are walking as the one who has been recommissioned. But don't keep this to yourself. Like this message right now, if the Spirit of God met you in any part of this journey, let that act seal the moment in your soul. This was not random. This was not surface. This was holy. Share it with someone who is still silently fighting. Someone whose spirit is fragile. Someone who's trying to break free but doesn't know how. Be the one who delivers the lifeline. What helped you may be their rescue. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. This space was never about numbers. It was built as a refuge for the remnant, a stream of fire for the faithful, and a prophetic voice for the chosen. Stay connected. Stay anchored. Stay in alignment with what heaven is doing. Lastly, comment below with one thing God whispered to you during this message. Let it be your testimony. Let it be your confirmation. Let it be a signal to the spirit realm. You are not the same. You've been marked. You've been transformed. And now, you are ready.